But we always think about a certain interest we can get back, right? So there is a truth to that. We are selfish to a certain extent. But when we are speaking about community, dedication to the community, contribution to the community, what you receive back is not necessarily in a regular sense that one would expect. Even if, for example, it's about, for example, joining the board of a school and say, okay, what I would get back from that, because a lot of time, a lot of dedication, it will be okay, the education of my kids, because I'm talking about a school. Yes, but that's not a direct, it's way beyond that. Why? Because I think the real return you'll have via the contribution to the community or one of its institution, it's not by having a better institution in the community, but it's in the giving itself. The very act of giving and contributing and participating in the making of a community and an institution so important such as a school, that very act of giving is what you receive. You will receive you personally in the way it will spiritually fill you, but it will also nurture the house. Your home will be nurtured with a sense of belonging and participating contribution to the community. That will be a subtle education, much stronger to the kids than having the school a bit more perfected in that area, or better robotic classes, or better AI, or better, all those things that are important, each one in his way. But what you will give via your life contribution to your kids will be far more exceeding than what the school will give them. So I would say generally when we're always looking at like, okay, I'm going to contribute to that and what I get in return, etc., it's true. But when we are talking about a community contribution, getting involved in giving back to society, what we are receiving the most is not the benefit of having a healthier society in which we evolve. That's one aspect. There's something much deeper. It's a level of spiritual life that is elevated by the fact that we are giving, regardless and irrespective of how the result of our contribution will turn out, whether I will benefit from the higher standard of the community in which I live or not. The very act of giving is what I receive the most. And that, it's not so intuitive to understand, but it's a core idea in the Jewish thought and philosophy of giving. Jewish philosophy of giving is, yes, we all receive and want to receive something from our contribution, but what do we really receive from our contribution? The privilege of being able to give. What Jewish people cherish the most.
Without waiting for some return on that.
This is the point. I don't know if we could say that Jewish people are so selfish and they will always give without expecting a return. It's that they have a concept of return that is different. We are not giving so I receive something back, nor so I can live in a better community standard. I'm giving because I am aware of the privilege it is to be able to give. And the very fact that I could give, that is my best gift. So what I receive in return, I receive the gift of being able to give.
And also,
that's a spiritual wealth that exceeds far more the benefits, the practical and tangible benefits I will receive from the community, whether we have better businesses in the community, we have better mental health in the community, we have a better integration in the community, we have better youth, all those things, better institutions, those will benefit us indirectly or directly in a way or another. There's something way more than that, much more real, much more direct and constant. It's the elevated spiritual state of mind in which we live, just by being aware of the privilege we have to be able to contribute. And it's not only a financial contribution, it's contribution of time, of ideas, of planning, being involved and really hands-on. That's a very Jewish idea.
The whole point is not being selfish, that I need to do something in exchange for something back, or looking for a return. You can, like sometimes you can give back without waiting.
You're not receiving something that someone will give you. You're receiving something that you are giving to yourself. What are you giving to yourself? You are giving to yourself the ability to give. To become a giver, an influencer, someone who makes changes, someone who impacts his entorno, someone who impacts his environment for the better good. That itself is the greatest gift you have in your life. And who gave it to you? No one. You gave it to yourself. So what is the greatest thing we can receive in return to my community contribution to the community is the fact that I am becoming a giver. That is the greatest thing I receive. It's very much underappreciated, but it's something that is ingrained into the Jewish culture, very much so. The awareness of being privileged to be able to contribute of something with something, and the openness of understanding that contribution goes beyond financial contribution. It goes by counseling, strategizing, time, physical help. All those are equally important in contribution. But I would say a Jew values the ability to give. That itself is the greatest gift I can receive, but I cannot receive it from anybody else. It's a gift I must offer myself. I don't think that the Jews are the only one who have that. I would say this is definitely a very particular characteristic to Jews. The proportion of charity from the Jewish community in comparison to their proportion in society is completely disproportionate. You go to if you take a census of all the hospitals, parks, children parks, amusement parks, science parks, university campuses, libraries, just across the United States and Canada, I would say, across North America, where there is an important Jewish community. And you look at all the contributions to those very public, community-oriented institutions, and look at the presence of Jewish contribution to those fields.
You can compare them, they're measured between different religions. Still gonna be 100 times more.
Yes, so sometimes you would think the spirituality of the community and the fact of being part of a religion, etc. Yes, it's true. It does impact tremendously, and the fact of living within a community increases the mindset of a community. But there is something specific to the Jewish people. I think the concept of Kol Israel Arevim Ze Lazeh, the Jews are responsible for one another. We will be here for one another. We will have one another's back. It's something that has evolved with us in our 2,000 years of exile so much. We've depended and relied on that system so much that is completely part of our culture today.
So it's written on the Torah.
Of course, you will love your fellow Jew like yourself. You should love the foreigner. You should love the deprived. You should love the weak. You should love the orphan, the widow, the slaves, those who have no power. Cherish them more to make sure there is less social injustice.
But a lot of my non-Jew friends, that I have a lot of non-Jew friends.
That's totally false.
I know, but that's how they are seeing it from the outside.
But
we are always helping each other.
That is totally false. There are plenty of very poor Jews, but we are here and try to support them. We alleviate it. We will give them clothing, help them with basic shelter. And we have this. In New York, the Jewish community has developed a system of internal ambulances. Now we have big communities over there, hundreds of thousands of Jews, Baruch Hashem. So they became a necessity to have a much more proximity ambulance system. And the neighboring communities, non-Jewish communities, saw what the Jews had and they said, we should do the same. Great. They had meetings and they asked the Jews if they can help them to plan and to say, sure. So they were having meetings, joint meetings, where the Hatzalah members will try to explain how to make that for your community. Everyone was so excited until they got to one point. When they got to the point of how do you manage the internal compensation for all the hours and dedication you will put there. And then the Jews surprised of the questions, what do you mean? There is no budget for internal management. It's 100% operation. There is no part of the budget that is for management. So what do you mean? And they had to clarify, no, what we have is 100% voluntary base. Nobody gets money from it. Nobody gets any reward from it. It's 100% voluntary base, 100% giving. When that clarification was made, they ran out. The project dissolved. It was an eye-opening moment for the Jewish community in New York. And I think it's an example that we need to remember. Not to say, they are not able to volunteer. First, because it's not true. Thank God, a lot of people all around are volunteering and giving and selflessly, etc. So it's not a generalization, but it is something noteworthy to mention that it is embedded in the Jewish culture to give 100% without anything in return. There are so many nonprofits in the US, but regular nonprofits in the US, not obviously, and again, obviously not all of them, but so many nonprofits have tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. So many nonprofit churches have billions of dollars invested. That type of things don't exist in the Jewish people. There is no community in the Jewish, I would say, focusing in North America, because let alone other places, for sure not. But even if North America, where you have wealthy Jews, resources, we don't have local communities, institution with billions of dollars invested. Non-profit, it does not exist. They are always in debt. The more you do, the more you're in debt. And again, I'm talking about the generality. You may find an exception, but it's just not the model. If you go to synagogue after synagogue, there is no finance. I remember an idea 20 years ago, they wanted to make a fund, a non-profit fund, to support families of rabbis and so on for basic necessities and their children. And they had a donation, initial donation of $10 million. Within 9 months, it was no 1 penny left. So they had to have a refill. They had a refill of 10 million by 10 million a couple of times for a couple of years. That fund was always broke. It was always broke. The idea was to reach $1 billion invested and take the 10% return and use it. And yes, what you could do with 80, 100 million a year, that's very significant. Granted. They never were able to get there simply because the mindset is outgiving. We don't pile up wealth on the back of nonprofits. And you know, when these things are usually happening, there is always like suddenly an inflated board, an inflated management, and everyone with fat salaries, and it just doesn't exist. It's not. The model is pure giving.